Hi everyone. In this video, we will go over the steps on how to install Cohesity extension for VMware vCloud Director, also known as VMware VCD. The VCD extension provides a seamless experience for its tenants because backup and recovery tasks can take place in a single UI. This is more convenient than requiring the tenants to hop back and forth between multiple discrete UIs. So without any wait, let's get started. This is the GitHub page for the Cohesity extension for VCD, the link for which is present in the description. It has all the prerequisites that are needed before you get started. It also has the installation steps. To run these commands, you would need Iris CLI. To install Iris CLI, log into the Cohesity cluster. From the top, click on the question mark icon and click on Download CLI. In this case, I will be downloading the CLI for Mac OS X. Once downloaded, you have to assign permissions to execute the script. Use the chmod command to do it. Once done, you can start executing Iris CLI commands. The next step is to go back to the GitHub page and copy the command that we want to execute. Make sure to replace these values with your own Cohesity cluster details. Paste the command and hit enter. Once done, let's go back to the GitHub page and get the next command. Make sure to replace the VCD host name with your VCD IP or FQDN. Let's get the next command and paste it to the shell. Hit enter. Once successful, you need to restart Iris services. Copy the restart command and paste it to the shell. And you are done. You can now exit the shell. The next step is to enable organizations on the Cohesity cluster. Log into the cluster UI with an admin role, click on Settings, Summary and hit Configure. Enable organizations, check this if it applies for you and click Save. Before we create the organizations, one important step is to register the VCD as a source on the Cohesity cluster. On the Sources page, select Hypervisor, select vCloud Director from the drop-down, enter the IP address and credentials for VCD and hit Connect. This will list all the vCenter present in the VCD. Select whichever applies for you and hit Register. After the registration of the source, the next step is to create organizations. To do that, click on Settings, Cluster and Organizations. Click on Add Organization, give it a name, give it an ID. You can enter a description if you want and click on Add. This might take a few seconds. The next step is to select a storage domain for this organization. You can either select one of the existing storage domains or create a new one. In this case, I'll create a new one. Give it a name, select the configuration, and click on Create Storage Domain. Let's assign some users to this organization. Click on Add Users. You can either select one of the existing users or create a new one. In this case, I will create a new user called VCD User 01. Enter all the required details and click on Add. The next important step is to assign a source object to this organization. In this case, we will assign the source that we just registered. We will assign this tenant to this organization. Select that and click on Assign. The next step is to assign some policies for this organization. Select it and click on Save. This creates an organization that we will use for the demo. After you create the organization, the next step is to install the extension. To do that, go to the Releases page and download the dataprotection.zip file. I have already extracted the files in my local machine. Change directory into the folder and edit the INI file and enter your VCD details as shown in this video. This user needs to be VCD system administrator. The next step is to execute the Python script. Copy the command and paste it to the shell. Once it is successful, the extension is successfully installed for VCD. Refer the README to perform other operations like removing the extension or updating the extension. The last step in configuring the VCD extension is to create a mapping between one of the VCD organizations to the organization that we just created in the Cohesity cluster. Log into the VCD app. In this case, I have already created a few organizations, and I'm going to map the first organization with the Cohesity organization that I just created. To create the mapping, select dataprotection. You only see this option after you have installed the VCD extension. Click on dataprotection. To create the mapping, click on Add. Enter your cluster details. Enter the admin credentials for the cluster, and you should see the organization we created on the right side under Cohesity tenants. This is where you create the mapping. Once you create the mapping, you would be asked to either select an existing user or create a new user. This user is used to make API calls to the Cohesity cluster. After this is done, click on Save. This creates the mapping. After the mapping creation, you can go ahead and log in to the VCD organization, using which you can create protection and restore jobs. Click on Open in Tenant Portal, and you can start creating Cohesity workflows. In the next video, we will go over all the workflows. This concludes the video. Thank you for watching.